A massive gun and magazine ban just dropped in Virginia, and it changes everything for millions of law-abiding gun owners overnight. The governor just signed a sweeping piece of legislation that flew completely under the radar for most people, but this new law could hit you next if you live in or even travel through the state. It completely redefines what you can legally own, what you can carry, and how you can protect your own family inside your own home. If you think this is just another political headline that will not affect your daily life, you are dangerously mistaken, because this creates immediate personal danger for regular citizens. A simple traffic stop or a routine trip to the local range could now turn into a high-stakes felony encounter before you even realize the rules shifted. Many people are already getting this completely wrong on social media, thinking they are safe under old rules or standard exemptions that no longer exist. The reality is that the Virginia governor just signed this historic ban into law, and within hours, the National Rifle Association, the Firearms Policy Coalition, and the Second Amendment Foundation filed a massive joint lawsuit to stop it. This legal battle is unfolding right now in federal court, and the stakes could not possibly be higher for the future of the Second Amendment. Over the next few minutes, we're going to break down exactly what this law bans, how the lawsuit works, what people are missing, and what you must do to protect yourself. If you care about your constitutional rights and want real, honest legal updates without the mainstream media spin, hit that subscribe button right now so you can stay ahead of these fast-moving laws. To understand why the situation is so explosive, we have to look closely at what this new law actually does to ordinary citizens. The state government did not just pass a minor restriction or a simple background check update. They went straight for a total ban on the most popular rifles and standard capacity magazines in America. Under this new legislation, a massive list of semi-automatic firearms is now classified as restricted assault weapons, making future sales, transfers, and imports completely illegal within state lines. Even worse, the law takes aim at standard defensive magazines, making it a crime to possess anything that holds more than 10 rounds of ammunition. This means the standard factory equipment that came with your defensive handgun or rifle is now squarely in the crosshairs of the state government. The mainstream media is trying to spin this as a common-sense safety measure, but that coverage is incredibly shallow and deeply misleading to the public. They want you to believe this only affects extreme tactical gear, but the actual legal text is written so broadly that it loops in everyday firearms used for home defense and hunting. If your semi-automatic rifle has a basic feature like a pistol grip, a folding stock, or even a threaded barrel, it is now considered an illegal weapon under this new framework. This creates an immediate trap for the average gun owner who bought their firearm legally at a local shop and has done nothing wrong. The law completely flips the script on law-abiding citizens while doing absolutely nothing to stop violent criminals who never follow gun laws in the first place. This sudden legislative shift is exactly why the top gun rights organizations in the country had to step in immediately with a massive federal lawsuit. The NRA, FPC, and SAF rarely team up all at once unless a law is so unconstitutional that it threatens the very foundation of the Second Amendment. Their legal complaint argues that the Virginia ban directly violates the landmark Supreme Court precedent established in the Bruin decision, which requires gun laws to match the historical tradition of this country. The groups are asking a federal judge for an emergency injunction, which is just a fancy legal word for a temporary court order that stops a law from being enforced while the lawsuit plays out. They are fighting to freeze this law before it can destroy the lives of innocent citizens who are just trying to exercise their constitutional rights. Now that the legal battle lines are drawn and the state is pushing hard to enforce these new restrictions, we need to talk about how this impacts your actual life. This is the exact moment where abstract courtroom talk turns into a real-world problem for regular people who just want to keep their families safe. If you are a responsible gun owner who wants to stay on the right side of the law, you need to know how your personal risk level just changed. Let us know your thoughts on this massive Virginia ban and the joint lawsuit in the comments below, and hit that like button if you believe this law is a direct violation of your rights. Here is what this means for you in plain, simple language that matters to your daily decisions and your personal safety. This law is going to completely change the rules for 3 different types of gun owners, and the hidden traps are everywhere. Think first about the brand new gun owner who just bought a standard semi-automatic pistol for home defense and keeps it on their nightstand. Under the old rules, you were perfectly safe and fully legal with your standard 15-round factory magazine protecting your household. Under this new law, keeping that exact same magazine in your home could make you a criminal facing serious jail time, even if you never take it out into public. Next, look at how this impacts the millions of concealed carry permit holders who commute through Virginia or travel across state lines for work. If you drive across the state line with your legal carry setup, you are entering a legal minefield where your permit might not protect your equipment anymore. A local law enforcement officer who pulls you over for a minor traffic issue could notice your spare magazine and realize it holds 12 rounds instead of 10. Even if the officer is friendly, they are now bound by a state law that treats that standard piece of metal as contraband. You could find yourself facing a weapon charge on the side of the highway, miles away from home, all because you did not realize a politician signed a paper. Finally, think about the experienced gun owner who has an entire collection of rifles locked away safely in their home gun safe. You might assume you are perfectly fine because you bought everything years ago and you have no intention of selling or buying anything new. But what happens if you need to take one of those rifles to a gunsmith for a simple repair, or you want to pass it down to your kids someday? The moment you move that firearm out of your house or try to transfer the title to a family member, you could be triggering a massive felony violation under the new transport and transfer rules. The law makes it incredibly difficult to move, maintain, or inherit the property you already paid for with your hard-earned money. Let us walk through a highly realistic scenario to show how fast this law can create a nightmare for an ordinary, responsible citizen. Imagine you are driving to a local shooting range on a Saturday morning with your teenage son to get some target practice in. You have your favorite semi-automatic rifle securely cased in the back of your SUV, along with a few standard 20-round magazines you have used for years. On the way there, you pass through a small town and get pulled over because the officer claims you did not come to a complete stop at a flashing red light. You do exactly what a good citizen does by keeping your hands on the wheel, being polite, and providing your license and registration immediately. Under the old rules, the officer would give you a quick warning about the light, look at your range gear, and wish you a safe day of shooting. But under the new law, the officer might ask if you are carrying any of the newly restricted firearms or high-capacity magazines that the governor just banned. If you answer honestly and say you have your standard target rifle in the back, the officer now has probable cause to inspect your equipment on the side of the road. The officer pulls out the rifle, counts the features like the threaded barrel and the pistol grip, and realizes it checks every box on the state's new banned list. Within seconds, a simple conversation about a traffic light turns into you being ordered out of the vehicle and placed in handcuffs in front of your son. Think about the sheer panic and confusion of that moment, standing on the pavement while the police search your vehicle and seize your private property. You are not a criminal, you have no criminal record, and you were simply trying to spend some quality time teaching your son how to shoot safely. Yet, because a new law went into effect and the headlines did not explain the details, your entire life is suddenly turned upside down. The prosecutor in that small town does not care that you are a nice person or that you did not mean to break the law. They are looking to hit people with the maximum penalty to show compliance with the state's aggressive new anti-gun agenda. This is where the situation gets much bigger, and it is the exact trap that most people still do not see coming down the road. This Virginia ban is not an isolated event. It is part of a coordinated, highly funded test run to see how fast states can dismantle the Second Amendment. The anti-gun groups behind this legislation are watching this federal lawsuit incredibly closely because they want to use this exact same blueprint in other states next. If the courts allow this ban to stand even temporarily, you can expect to see identical bills introduced in dozens of other state capitals over the coming months. This is why the fight in Virginia matters to every single American, regardless of what state you actually live in right now. This brings us to the deeper reality of the situation and the hidden consequences that people only realize after it is already too late. When a state passes a massive ban like this, it creates a massive ripple effect that completely breaks the local firearms market and destroys small businesses. Local gun shops are forced to stop selling their most popular inventory immediately, causing many of them to go completely out of business within a few weeks. This means your local access to safety gear, ammunition, training, and expert advice completely vanishes, leaving you isolated and vulnerable. The bigger issue is that this law relies on a trap where the definitions are so confusing that even the police do not fully understand what is legal and what is a crime. This confusion is a feature of the law, not a bug, because it creates an environment of fear where regular people choose to just leave their guns at home or stop carrying entirely. When the rules are a total mystery and the penalties are severe, the average citizen decides that exercising their rights is simply too risky for their family's future. This is where people get burned, because they rely on common sense to guide them through a legal system that has completely abandoned common sense. You cannot just assume that because a firearm looks normal or is sold nationwide, that it is safe from a greedy state prosecutor looking to make a political statement. Staying ahead of these changes and understanding the hidden traps is the only way to protect your freedom going forward. So make sure you are subscribed to this channel with notifications turned on so you never get caught off guard. The future implications of this joint lawsuit by the NRA, FPC, and SAF are going to shape the Second Amendment landscape for the next decade. This is where the next major fight starts, and it is heading straight toward the Federal Court of Appeals and ultimately the Supreme Court. The federal judge assigned to this initial case will have to make a critical decision very soon on whether to grant the emergency injunction. If the judge is a strict constitutionalist, they will pause the law, giving gun owners a massive victory and halting the ban while the full trial takes place. But if the judge sides with the state government, the ban will stay active, forcing gun owners to comply with these restrictions during a legal battle that could last for years. If the lower court fails to protect gun rights, the legal teams will immediately appeal the decision to the higher circuit court, creating a fast-paced legal chess match. This means the rules on the ground in Virginia could literally change from week to week, depending on which court issues the latest ruling. One day you might be legal, and the next day you could be violating a federal appellate order just by driving to the range with your standard equipment. This constant back and forth creates a massive amount of stress and instability for regular citizens who are just trying to live their lives peacefully. It also forces gun owners to become amateur legal scholars just to make sure they do not accidentally commit a felony on their day off. We also have to look at how state lawmakers and local law enforcement are reacting to this unfolding court battle right now. Several conservative county sheriffs across the state have already released statements saying they will prioritize violent crime over enforcing unconstitutional gun bans on good citizens. While that sounds comforting, you have to realize that a sheriff's promise cannot completely protect you from state police officers or federal task forces who choose to enforce the law strictly. State agencies answer directly to the governor, and they will absolutely use their authority to crack down on anyone who refuses to comply with the new mandate. You cannot risk your freedom on the assumption that every single officer you meet will choose to ignore the written law of the land. Let us take a moment to cut through the noise and bust 3 massive myths that are currently spreading across social media and gun forums about this ban. The first big myth is the idea that you are completely safe because your firearms are grandfathered in under a special clause. People are telling each other online that if you owned your rifles and magazines before the governor signed the bill, the law cannot touch you or take your property away. That is a dangerous lie because the text of this specific ban does not include a clean automatic grandfather clause for possession without strict registration requirements. If you do not register your existing property with the state within a tight deadline, you are automatically in violation of the law, regardless of when you bought it. The second myth going around is that federal law or your out-of-state concealed carry permit will automatically override this new state ban when you travel. People think that if their home state allows standard magazines, Virginia has to respect that under the rules of interstate travel and reciprocity. This is completely false because states have the absolute power to regulate what items are brought across their borders under the current legal framework. Your out-of-state permit only allows you to carry weapons that are fully legal within the state you are visiting at that exact moment. The moment you step onto Virginia soil with a banned magazine, your out-of-state credentials become completely useless and you are subject to their local criminal penalties. The third and most destructive myth is that you should just ignore the new law completely because the Supreme Court will step in and strike it down within a few weeks. Many gun owners have a false sense of security because they know the Supreme Court currently has a conservative majority that favors the Second Amendment. The truth is that the highest court moves at an incredibly slow, agonizing pace, and they almost never jump into a case at the very beginning of a state lawsuit. It can take 3 to 5 years of intense litigation through the lower courts before the Supreme Court even decides whether they want to look at the case. Relying on a quick fix from Washington while the state police are actively enforcing a ban is a massive gamble that could cost you your freedom. This entire situation is about something much deeper than just the technical definitions of stocks, barrels, grips, and magazine capacities. It is about your fundamental dignity as a human being, your right to protect your children, and the peace of mind that comes with knowing you can defend your home. When a government makes it a crime to own standard safety tools, they are forcing you to make an impossible choice between your safety and your legal clean record. This creates an enormous amount of mental pressure and anxiety for good citizens who have spent their entire lives following every single rule by the book. That is why understanding the actual law and tracking these lawsuits is not just a hobby. It is a critical part of protecting the people you love from a system that can turn against you in an instant. As we bring everything together today, you need to remember that the headline you see on the news is never the full story when it comes to your rights. The joint lawsuit filed by the NRA, FPC, and SAF is a powerful shield, but it does not completely erase your personal responsibility to stay alert and informed. The legal system is incredibly cold and unfeeling, and it will not spare you just because you did not see the announcement or because you thought the law was unfair. You have to take control of your own situation, watch the court dockets closely, and make smart, calculated choices about how you store, carry, and transport your equipment. True security comes from being sharper than the politicians who are trying to restrict your freedom behind closed doors. Let us quickly recap the 3 most important takeaways from this breaking legal update so you have them locked in your mind moving forward. First, the Virginia governor has officially signed a sweeping ban on popular semi-automatic rifles and any magazine that holds more than 10 rounds of ammunition. Second, the top gun rights organizations have already launched a massive federal lawsuit seeking an emergency injunction, meaning the law could be paused or activated back and forth over the coming weeks. Finally, you cannot rely on social media myths about grandfather clauses or fast Supreme Court rescues to keep you safe from real-world police encounters and state prosecution. You must understand the exact rules of the jurisdiction you are standing in every single day. This matter is going to define the future of gun ownership in this country, and staying informed is your absolute best defense against government overreach. We are part of a massive movement of regular, hard-working Americans who refuse to stay in the dark while politicians try to quietly chip away at our constitutional freedoms. If you want to stand with us, get real legal updates without the political spin, and protect your family with facts, hit that subscribe button right now and join our community. Drop a comment below letting us know if you think the federal court will block this ban, and let us know how you are preparing to protect your rights in your home state. Stay safe out there, keep your head on a swivel, and we will see you in the next breakdown.